Hello and welcome to American Franchise Dream, helping you navigate the maze of franchise opportunities. Find us on the web at AmericanFranchiseDream.com. Today's presentation is on franchise search. Know yourself first. Let's get started. Okay, today's presentation is all about taking an inventory or knowing yourself first before you start off on your franchise search. The key principle that we're following here is that selecting a franchise that is a good fit for you requires that you know something about yourself first. Now, I'd like to use a metaphor here of exercising. Let's say one day you decided you wanted to get in shape and you decided to jump off the couch and go directly to Walmart without giving your exercise needs or skills or goals much thought. Chances are you'd likely come home with the latest item on sale, maybe it was an exercise bike, only to discover that pedaling in place while looking at the walls is not a good fit for you. And the bike turns out to be a bad investment, and you're not achieving your goal of getting in shape. And in fact, poor planning not only costs you money, but it's negatively affecting your health because you're not exercising. Now, believe it or not, this poor planning scenario happens to those pursuing franchise opportunities as well. A person decides that franchising is a good path to business ownership, so they start by researching franchise businesses instead of starting with themselves first. As a result, they often end up chasing the latest hot franchise idea or some great franchise deal instead of finding the franchise that fits their skills, their experience, their personality, and their goals. So, what's this all about? Knowing yourself first. But before you start your franchise search, it's important you take a personal inventory of those things: your skills, your experience, your personality, and your goals. Let's get started on the first one. Skills inventory. Ask yourself, do your business skills match those required for success in a franchise? Now, you really need an honest assessment of your business skills, the good, the bad, and the ugly. As you might expect, getting an independent opinion from those that know you best is probably a good idea because you're probably not the person to judge yourself critically. Although, I could be wrong. Maybe you do have a good view of what you're good at from a skill standpoint. But as a suggestion or a recommendation, start with your significant other, a colleague, or maybe even a business coach if you happen to have one. And here are some questions you might want to consider. What skills do you bring to this franchise or a business? So just list them out. What are those key skills? And as you list those, ask yourself, which skills are critical for success in a specific franchise that you're interested in? Because, for example, let's just say you're going down the restaurant path and you want to buy a restaurant franchise. Well, the ability to manage people is a critical skill for that success. So not only do you want to assess kind of the generic skills that you bring to the table, but also look specifically when you get down to the specific franchise, really hone in on what skills are needed for success within that particular franchise. Next, once you figure out what those skills are, what gaps do you need to fill and how are you going to fill them? Because, chances are you're probably not Superman or Superwoman. You're not going to have all the skills needed. So how are you going to fill those gaps? And then lastly, ask yourself, depending on how big those gaps might be, do you need a business partner? That might be a key question for you to ponder. Step 2, conduct or produce an experience inventory. And in doing so, really examine yourself. What knowledge have you acquired either through education, mentorship? Those are some things that can give you some experience, but nothing beats that real world experience. Some call it the school of hard knocks. So before you start your franchise search, make sure you've been in situations that will give you the knowledge needed to make those tough decisions. Now, here are some questions to ask. What tough business situations have you successfully overcome? So you were in a very difficult spot. How did you overcome it? Next, do you have sales and marketing experience? This is asked specifically because this could mean the difference between success and failure in any business today. Do you have, like I said earlier, that real world experience, the school of hard knocks, so to speak? And the example here is people management, as we discussed. If you're going into a business that really requires that, you should really have that experience so it's proven. Have you run a business or served in key roles? Now, many might say, well, geez, I haven't run a business, that's why I'm buying a franchise. Well, don't think the franchise is going to substitute for experience. It's not. But at the same time, if you have served in some key roles that give you that experience, don't automatically eliminate yourself just because you haven't run a business. Okay, step 3, personality inventory. Do you have the personality for franchise success? Now, your personality type defines a lot about you and has shaped your career, the types of jobs you've had, the person you've become thus far. The key question before you start your franchise search is, do you have the personality? Again, here are some questions for you to ponder. Can you work in a defined structure and follow the rules? Because you know what? Buying a franchise, it's all about working within the existing operations that have already been defined for you. Number 2, are you the type of person that is constantly looking for a way to do things differently or better? That's how I am. And if you have that type of personality, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but you just have to know going into a franchise, you're not going to be the guy changing everything. You may have to wait patiently, make suggestions and wait patiently for those changes to be made because you're not calling those shots. Speaking of calling shots, is it okay that you are not the one doing that in terms of how the business is run? If you're saying to yourself, oh no, I have to be the person that's calling the shots, well then franchising may not be for you. And then lastly, do you have the patience needed to wait for some key changes that might need to be made in the business by the franchisor? Again, just think of it this way. You're part of a bigger team and a bigger network, and there's some definite pluses and advantages to that. But depending on your personality, there may be some disadvantages. So just do some soul searching here and really define what type of personality you have. Now, step 4 is the goals inventory. You need to make sure that the franchise business you choose obviously has to meet your goals. Otherwise, you might find this great franchise business, but if it's not meeting your goals, you could be barking up the wrong tree. Don't make the mistake of buying into the latest, quote, hot franchise, only to find out that it doesn't match up with what goals you've defined. So here's some questions to help you. What's driving you to start a business now? What goals are you trying to achieve that you're not achieving in your current, say, career path, for lack of a better phrase? What is it driving you to start your business? What goals are you trying to obtain? As you think about that, get specific. What personal and financial goals do you want to achieve? Write them down. Make sure that these goals, if you clearly define them, they're going to become your filter criteria for what you're looking for. And with respect to goals, also define what are your short-term and your long-term objectives. You know what? Starting a business, franchise or not, it's going to require most likely some sacrifices in the short term. Are you willing to make some of those sacrifices in order to achieve long-term objectives? Give that some thought. And then lastly, ask yourself, do your personal, family, and franchise goals all align? Because I can tell you, if you don't take those 3 things into consideration and one of them are out of alignment, then it's going to create some major issues and could eventually lead to either the failure of the business or the failure to meet some of these other goals that are critical from a life perspective. Okay, quick summary. Skills. Do you have the right skill set? Do you bring the right skills to the equation to succeed? Experience. Do you have the business experience needed for success? And I'm talking real world, hard knocks experience. Thirdly, personality. Can you fit into that franchise, quote, that team? Are you okay with being the one that's not calling the shots? And then finally, goals. Personal, financial, family, and business? Do they all align? That's critical. Okay, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen. Please visit us at AmericanFranchiseDream.com. There you will find a free 22-page Franchise Fit ebook. It's going to force you to think through a lot of these questions, really to figure out, is franchising a good fit for you? And hey, if you found this helpful, please like us. And thanks again for listening.